Welcome to the From Scratch Buttons video. In this video we will create a couple Android buttons, and at this point, week 3, I would like you to start owning your code. What that means is that it's nice to research code, find out what you can cookbook or copy and paste, but I'd really like you to start to be able to create your Android apps from scratch. Now, from scratch, it doesn't mean that you have to go out and create the flour by stone grounding the wheat. It doesn't mean that you have to use the chemicals to create the baking powder or the baking soda. It doesn't mean you have to create the butter that you put into the biscuits. But what it does mean is that you have to know where to find those items and in what combinations to place them. So let's do that. Let's start out and create a new project. Our project, of course, is going to be an Android project, and we will call this button demo. We'll choose Android 2.1. Our application name is, there can be a space in that. Our package name will be com.cit68.demo. Create activity. Our activity is going to be called Click Me. Remember, what is an activity? Activity is that screen. It's the entry point, the onCreate. It's going to be the entry point for your app. So Click Me, it's going to be a Java file, and that's where we're going to do our work. The minimum SDK version, because I've chosen 2.1, corresponds to the API. So that will be 7. So here's our button demo, and go ahead and take a look at the clickme.java file. You can see this will have the hello world components in it, and run that. Make sure you get the hello world message when you run it as an Android application. If you have a device hooked up, go to DDMS, open up devices, make sure your device is selected, and there's hello world. So far so good. From the DDMS, just go back to the Java perspective. Alright, so we're doing this from scratch. How do we get a button onto our Android app here? The button is actually going to be in our layout. So go ahead and open up main.xml. You can see the XML just had a text view. What is a text view? Text view is like a label. If you click on graphical layout, give us a second to load, you'll actually see the label. The button is actually a widget. Here you'll see it's under Form Widgets. So if you click on this button and bring it over, you'll have actually a button in your app. And I'm going to bring over 2 buttons. Let's go back to the XML and take a look at what we've done. Let's clean this up a little bit. And let's examine what's been added for us. We have these 2 elements. They're called button elements, and the attributes are set. This is probably the most important attribute here. This is the Android ID attribute. The @ means it's going to be parsed or processed by the operating system by the compiler to create an ID. Plus means that an ID has to be added for this. And what will happen, this ID, button 1, will end up in our resource file. Remember that R file, the r.java file that's automatically generated for us. So we can name this ID whatever we want. Let's change it just to demonstrate that we're in control of our own destiny. Let's change this to button 0 btn01 and then to btn02. Okay, for button 1 and button 2. Also, the text that will appear on the button, or let's just go ahead and run our project at this point. Alright, here's what our little app looks like. So with almost no code at all, we have a label and 2 buttons. The text view widget here we don't need, because let's say that our assignment was just to create 2 buttons. So how do we get rid of that? Well, let's go back to main.xml and delete it. To get back to Java, click on Java from the DDMS environment, and we are indeed in main.xml. And let's examine this text view widget here. So the text view widget begins here and ends here. Let's just delete that. And let's also note that what's going on here with this @ and string. The @ and string means that there is a string element resource named hello. That's all that means. This doesn't mean that this obviously is the actual text that will be displayed. Remember, our actual text was hello world click me. It was not @ string hello. So what this is, go ahead and find where there is a string element named hello. And creatively enough, if you open up strings.xml, you'll notice under resources, here is a string element and its name attribute is set to hello. So because we are deleting that, we do not need this again. Now, would it do us any harm to leave it here? No. Let's go back to main.xml. Let's get rid of this text view or widget. Cut that. You can hit delete on your keyboard, same difference. While we're at it, let's change the text that will appear on our buttons. So let's just change it from boring button to click me for the first one, and the second one no click me. Alright, go ahead and run that. Yep, save it. Sure enough, you can see that our buttons have changed from the text click me to no click me. While we're in the XML, let's go ahead and change the text color of this first button to red and the text color of this second button to blue. Go back to the Java perspective, and let's say we're stuck. We have no idea how to change the color of a button. Where do we go? When you're making those biscuits, you know you need some baking powder, but you don't know where it is. What do? You open up the cupboard and look for it. So let's do that. Let's open up our cupboard. In this case, it is Android developers. And the search button here, let's type in colors. And sure enough, colors.xml looks like that is exactly what we're looking for. Here's colors.xml, and you can see this is set up exactly like the strings, and it is going to be in a file named colors.xml. So it's an XML. I'll show you how to add that to your project in just a second. But instead of string and name and value here for the element, we're going to have color. So let's go ahead and add. So the steps to that are, we're going to add a resource named colors.xml, and we're going to make sure that we add a couple colors, and we're going to give these couple colors names. Okay, so here's strings. We're going to add a file, not strings.xml, but it's now going to be called colors.xml. Let's see. By the way, we don't need this hello string anymore. We can certainly delete that. Good idea to save your project when you can. I always do project clean, just for good measure. Okay, to add an XML file, Eclipse is strange. Sometimes you can get away with just adding a new file and naming it XML. Instinctively, I think that's what you'd want to do. You just click values here, and you'd say file, new file, etc. Sometimes that will work, sometimes it won't. I would call it a bug in Eclipse. If you are adding an XML file, this is what you need to do. You need to click on this little icon here that says open a wizard to help create a new Android XML file. Okay, so what would we like to create? This is going to be under values, and our file is going to be called colors. Remember, colors.xml. Down here, there we go. Just click on finish, and that's all there is to it. Now let's explore colors.xml. It just has the resources. If you want to get started, you can copy a format for an element from strings. Now instead of string, we're going to call this element color. And name, we'll call this hot color. And make sure your elements match. Colors are similar to CSS, colors in Android similar to CSS colors, although the first hex pair is called alpha, and it is measure of transparency. So 00 is totally transparent. FF or 255 is totally opaque, so you can't see through it. So we'll make this totally opaque, and we'll make this red. So it's RGB, so fully red. No green and no blue. Okay, so it's a hot color. And let's make another color while we're at it. Let's say this is calm color. And yep, we'll make that blue. So RGB. Alright, go ahead and save those. And notice what you've done. You have now an element, a color element named hot color, and a color element named calm color. So let's go back to main.xml. It's open right here for us. Because a button is actually a view, we can use a standard view property. Let's put that over there. Called text color. Use autocomplete, and that will help you learn Android programming quite a bit. So Android : text color, you can see that's right here, equals what? And you can see the @color is already available to us because we've added it in colors. And if you open up colors.xml, you're going to see an attribute, or excuse me, an element named color. So that's already available to us. And what are the two choices we have? We have hot color and calm color. Alright, so we'll choose for this one hot color. And for this button down here, once you have that, yep, this is going to be calm color. Now, could we have just entered the color hex code as a string value, just as we did in text? Certainly, we could have. Likewise, we could have put this. We probably should have put this into a string. All right, but this is a good demonstration nonetheless here. So let's go ahead and run our project. And sure enough, you can see that now we have a red text button and a blue text button. What happens when you click these buttons? It looks like an emulator here, but it's not. On my device, I am clicking these buttons and nothing happens. Nothing happens at all. Why? Let me ask it another way. What do you need in Java programming to handle events, to handle user events? What do you need to implement anytime you code up a J frame or a J button or something like that? You need an action listener, right? So it's the same idea here in Android programming. Android programming is 80% Java and 20% XML. So it's just Java programming. So we need an action listener to handle our clicks. How do we know what action listener we're going to need? Well, let's go back to the cupboard here and see. In the search, let's look for button. And our answer is right here. So right under on create, this is what we need. This is the code we need here. And you can see that we are actually creating an object of type button. This is a class cast and name of the object class cast here, and then find view by ID. Notice here we pass in R, that's for our resource file .id button ID. So whatever we have ID'd, the name of our ID of our button is going to go here. This is actually kind of a long statement. It looks kind of strange because it has two code blocks in it. You'll notice the two sets of French braces here. Nonetheless, let's go ahead and copy that. So here we are back at our class file, our main activity. Let's go ahead and just paste that in and clean it up. And again, this is one single programming statement here, yet it has two code blocks. Here's a code block inner, here's a code block outer, so it looks kind of strange. but it is just this function set on click listener. And this function accepts as an argument this object that was created with this new from view.onClickListener. So it's a little bit complicated, but make sure your French braces match up. Still got an extra one in there. This is why alignment is critical, but you know, this is just programming. Eclipse is pretty nice. When you click on these at the end of the French brace, you can see there's a little square around the French brace that it's paired up with. So this is looking pretty good. I know that this French brace down here is supposed to end this public here. Okay, what's going on with these errors? It doesn't, first of all, open the error and see what it says. Import button, create class button. So there's something about it doesn't understand what the class button is. I wonder why. Well, let's check our imports. We have not imported the button class. So button is in Android.widget. So let's go ahead and import that and see how many errors we get rid of. And with that, project clean. Button ID cannot be resolved or is not a field. Okay, remember, what IDs do we have? Well, let's check our resource. So go to Gen, RJava, and check IDs. Ah, here they are, BTN01, BTN02. Who created those? You did, when you actually created them here in main.xml. Android ID. The @ sign means process it, plus means add it as an ID, and BTN01, that's the ID that you created. BTN02, that's the ID that you created. So that makes sense. Let's go back to our Java file. So instead of r.id, there is no button underscore ID, but there certainly is a BTN01. There we go. Alright, now what's up with set on quick listener new? Something's up with view. And the type view is not applicable for the arguments. This means that it does not know what view is, so we have to import that as well. Import view dot view. There we go. Takes care of that. Alright, very good. So let's name this first button. And there we go. So first button, let's clean that. Whoops, I'm missing button. There we go. This is now first button. Alright, so I created a button. I've named it first button. It is referenced to the button that I created in my main.xml file, and it's referenced, it's pointed to with this method right here, find view by ID. So again, that ID, look in Gen and find our Java, and you'll find that ID. So we're almost there. Let's perform some action. Let's create a function called displayMe, and what this will do, we're going to display what's called a toast, which is a short, very short disappearing message. Usually you get these when something has happened that doesn't require the user's attention, but you want to let the user know. In this case, we'll use toast. If you have no idea what toast is, go to the cupboard and look for the documentation. In the search, I'm in Android Developers References Toast, and you can see it's a widget, Android.widget toast, and you can read all about it. Easiest way to use this class, call one of the static methods, okay, which are right here. So toast.makeText. Let's try that. So let's create a new method here called of our class ClickMe, and the method of course is going to be called displayMe. It's going to be private. It's inside this class. It won't return anything. And copy and paste. I'll have it receive an argument of type an object of string class. And then I will use toast to display what was passed in. So toast dot make text, whoops, context is this, which means this current object that I'm in. This will be this string, and duration, it's going to be toast dot length short. All there is to it, dot show. Again, check the documentation for toast and you'll see how easy that is. Alright. I've got an error here. Sure enough, displayMe needs a string here. So my string for this argument, and this will be button 1. Button 1 clicked. Okay, everything looks good. Let's go ahead and run that. I only have that. Yep, it looks great. I'll show you that in just a second. Looks great for the click me button. Now I'll do the same for the no click me, the blue button. So all I need to do here, really simply, once you have one working, go ahead and copy and paste this. Control C, Control V. Okay, and just change this to second. One more. I need one more statement here. There we go. Alright, and so this will be called second button. My ID will be BTN02. Button 2 was clicked. Just to make it a little bit different. Alright, I think that looks good. Let's go ahead and run this. Now when I click this, I'll have to be really quick to refresh this. Well, when I click it on my device, I'll have to be really quick to refresh this, and I can show you the toast. So click and refresh. If I did that, yep, I think I got it for you. There you go. So button 2 was clicked. Oh, you know what? I didn't copy. It's working okay, but the text should be, because I copied and pasted. I thought I clicked 1. Let me just check real quick. Oh yeah, here was the problem. I created second button okay. That's fine, but I didn't update the listener. There we go. Alright, let's run that again. That would have been a hard bug to find if I didn't do that in increments. Alright, this time I'll click on the blue one. Refresh it. There we go. I think I got it. Yep. Button 2 is clicked. And now the first button. Button 1 clicked. Alright, this will conclude button demo from scratch. I guess that's what I'll call it, button demo from scratch. And in this video, we coded up an Android app from scratch, and we just used buttons and demonstrated the relationships between the layout that is described by our XML files and the running code that is in our activity code, our Java code. This will conclude button demo from scratch.